guys.
This is our first video podcast ever, so we're excited to be here.
I'm Eileen. My friends call me Ai.
I'm Anita, and you can call me Anita.
We want to welcome you guys to the podcast. Before we go on and start talking more about the beauty thing, we love doing this. It's fun. We get to talk about different topics here regarding our generation, which is Generation X, and the fact that we happen to be Asian. But that doesn't mean that we don't talk about topics that are non-Asian. It's just that our experience as Asians in the world in general. So,
and growing up Generation X, how that kind of informs and influences our perspectives and how we deal with stuff. And so
we always have to kind of distinguish, like when we're talking about something, we're always wondering, like, wait, is that an Asian thing or is that a generation thing? We always say that.
We do.
Because sometimes it's not an Asian thing. Sometimes it's that if you grew up in the 80s or 70s, everyone did it, not just Asians. So that's, I think the whole mix of it all is great. I think that it's great that we have a representation of like Korean and Filipino, because for some reason we're seeing a lot of you guys out there and we're like, hey, those are our peeps. We got to go out there and join the fun. And so that's another reason we're like, let's finally get on YouTube, because at least we'll get to meet people because they'll leave comments and they'll get to finally meet us. You know,
you'll see the Korean and the Filipina.
Yeah, and what goes on, you know, behind the scenes while we're talking.
You don't see that we use our hands a lot, and I'm constantly moving and dancing.
And we always talk about eating and how we're full, and then how my stupid watch always talks to me in the middle of the thing, and my phone goes off, and all this stuff. And I think that stuff is the fun stuff. And that's why we're just going to be out here and be real people. Our studio, we created, Anita and I built everything that you see behind us, except for this. We got this at a thrift shop. Like, we just put everything in here, and we're like, you know what? Done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
The one thing that we spent time building were the acoustic panels so that it sounds better in here. Because I'm really anal when it comes to sound. And then, you know, later on, it'll probably get better and better with the lighting and all this. But right now, we just wanted to come out here, make sure we made it out here.
Yeah.
And we had this goal that we would do this on our year anniversary. So that's why we're just out here, no matter how it looks, no matter how the camera's set up. We got phones for cameras. And then the sound, the microphones are way out there. We don't know if you guys can hear as well. But by the time I get to editing this thing, you guys should be able to hear us well. We're still going to stay in audio, so you can still catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, whatever is out there. We're out there now. And the topic today is we also wanted to do it today because the topic we chose is kind of relevant to a lot of reasons why people go on video or don't want to go on video. Or, I mean, that's one of the reasons. It took us a while to like decide, okay, are we going to do video podcasting? Because that means we have to not be in our pajamas, or, hey, you know, you're going to get to know us soon. Maybe we will be in our pajamas one day.
We'll definitely be in our pajamas.
Yeah, exactly. But for now, you know, the first thought was like, okay, that means we have to get dressed. We kind of have to put makeup on because with the lighting and all that, that'll just like wash us out. And it was a whole thing about looks. And it wasn't necessarily like we have to look beautiful, you know. It was more like we just have to be presentable and not scare everybody, you know, like
how you look in real life and how you look on the camera is really different.
Yep.
And that's something that I was very new to as we were doing social media to promote the podcast. And also, I was like, oh my God, makeup, no, I hate it. So that's kind of my general like inside reaction. But recently, this last month, if you've been following us on Instagram or listening to our podcast, we did a whole month of Halloween makeup.
Yep.
And it was crazy when Eileen first mentioned it. I thought, makeup? God, I don't know if I can do that, you know. But after the month of makeup,
sorry, I was like,
that's so you got a hoodie around.
Still a lot of junk, just a lot of junk lying around.
But so we did this whole month of makeup.
Yeah.
And I realized at the end of the month, I had a good time. And that makeup was not my enemy.
Yeah, because Anita was like super nervous about makeup, and like I've been a makeup artist, and I was like, Anita, don't stress out. Like literally, like when I did my first Halloween face, I realized that like it took me forever to do like one look, and then when I got it on camera, I was like, wow, it made it look 10 times better. And then I said, oh, if it makes it look 10 times better, I could do 5 times less
Yeah.
worrying about it,
Yes.
and it'll come out good anyways on the camera. And so that's what I was trying to get her to believe. And then she got a lot better at it. And she, like, by Halloween, she had a great look. I'm going to pop it on the screen right now. How awesome did that look? Right?
So the funny thing is, you would think makeup. Why are you all stressed out about that? It's so stupid when I even hear myself saying it. But I haven't really been that into makeup. I have always had like a phobia of makeup or no clue really what to do beyond like lotion, powder, eyeliner. Maybe I do lipsticks,
Yeah.
and so that was it. But during the whole Halloween makeup
She's way better at lipstick than me. In fact, I went to take I was eating something, so I forgot to put my lipstick on. So keep going.
Okay. So the whole time we were doing this makeup, we were doing it together, which made it so much more fun. And especially because that's not something I did as a teen or even loved as a young adult. But I have to admit, I was actually sweating as I was doing my makeup. I mean, I was just like, sweat was pouring off of me. And then there were a couple times where I was doing it and my hand was shaking. And I thought, I was like getting lightheaded. And I thought, what is the problem? So the whole time I was doing this Halloween makeup beside Eileen and prepping at home for Halloween day, I was freaked out and I thought, it's just makeup. Why are you so filled with anxiety?
Yep.
And so I thought, oh my God, we have to do a podcast about this and talk about why is it freaking me out so much? And I realized my irrational fear of makeup had a lot to do with the fact that I grew up with impossible beauty standards.
I mean, this topic has been on our list for a while now because as Asians, and hey, I'm only speaking for Asians because I know this happens in the Asian community. Maybe it happens in the Latin community or the Caucasian or whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, and African American, but I'll tell you right now, the beauty standards, and those of you who are into the K-pop generation know that
K-beauty
is
trending.
Yes. It totally is. And
Yes.
it's funny because it happens in all the Asian countries. However, right now K is big because BTS and K dramas and things are just trending so hard for the past 4 years, 3 to 4 years, that we're gonna focus on K beauty because that's a thing. And wait
Also,
till Anita tells you.
Yeah. Also, I'm Korean, right?
She's Korean. And I've known her for a long time, and I always hear the things that her mom says, and her relatives or whatever every time she goes to these family parties, and I always like relate because I'm like, oh yeah, Filipinos are the same. First thing they say when they see you is like, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. You look like you got bigger. So that's like their Filipino hello.
Yeah.
And but with the K, so that's like body wise, nobody like, I guess Filipinos do, depending on where you are in the region, like they do also focus on like the face, especially in the last.
All of Asia.
Yeah,
the last all about 15, the super light face, right?
Yeah, like the last 15 to 20 years, there's been a huge rise in plastic surgery as well in the Philippines for people who could afford it,
right?
Or for like we would go back to the Philippines and get it done. Right. And Anita like read this article the other day on K beauty and she was like totally distraught. So we're like, all right, it's time to talk about it.
Yes, and we are going to post this article so you guys can check out the article yourselves. But I'll just kind of give you the lowdown on what are the Korean beauty standards. So first of all, it's a small head. And apparently there's even a ratio. It's like
we're checking off all these things that we don't have already. Like
I know. I'm like known for being the bobblehead in our family. So I'm like, oh my God, I definitely
My
don't have the
family
small
too.
head, but
My brother has even a bigger head than me, but we're known to have big heads as well. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, that's one down. That's one
yeah,
bad thing. Go ahead,
exactly.
keep going.
And then it's like this V-shaped narrow face, which is like, another strike against me because I have a more like oval and then like a square jaw. So I've never had that classic idyllic Korean
But
beauty.
which is kind of
Yeah,
funny because the typical Korean doesn't
right.
have that either.
The funny thing is that there's all different face shapes, and I was talking to my mom actually this morning,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
had this long discussion about it, and she said, "You know how many big faced, like ugly Koreans that don't
Oh my
adhere to
god.
that standard?" I mean, she's blunt, so I was like, "Thanks, mom,
The
for the
older
honesty."
generation is
Yeah,
like that, so we don't hold it against them.
yeah. So she said that's just something that's become really to the forefront. It's always been held as the most beautiful. Another thing is like having a very full forehead, and that's actually more important in Korean beauty than having high cheekbones.
Yeah.
And I actually am the opposite. Like I have higher cheekbones, but I don't have that really rounded full forehead.
You're talking about your jaw. I mean, your face
Right.
shape. Yeah.
So, like I said, the Korean ideal is to have, um, it's more about having a V shaped face and then the forehead is rounded. And it's not about having high cheekbones. And so I'm actually the opposite. I have high cheekbones and then I don't necessarily have the forehead
Wait, so
and the.
you're telling me that from the Koreans, like all my Korean friends, like
Huh.
the the I don't want to say typical. The Korean face that I know
Yeah.
has high cheekbones.
Yeah. So I have high cheekbones, but that's not important. And you'll see in a lot of the
This
K
is why she was
dramas.
distraught.
Yeah, in a lot of the K dramas, they have a very like flat, but it's all about having this really smooth, glassy skin, and having even the eyebrows my eyebrows are not the Korean ideal. So I have a normal arch. No, they want it to be straight across and just supernatural. And everyone is
Oh,
like,
really? Like straight?
yeah. And
Huh.
so, and everyone will ask me, like, what's up with your eyebrows? Why are they arched? Like, why are they looking a little bit Ronald McDonald? I only get that comment from my Korean friends and family. And I'm like, but I'm just following the natural line of my brows. So
Yeah.
that's
Plus,
kind
in
of.
in American standards, the arch is
It's very
important.
Western. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you got to
Uh-huh.
have the arch. I mean, that's
Right.
that whole trend years ago that your brows are on fleek.
Uh-huh.
Like that was because you had the perfect shape
Right.
on in your
Yeah, the
eyebrows.
supermodels naturally had that and everybody
yeah.
emphasized it.
Yeah.
So like I have a natural bit of that and I
Yeah.
have a very like the my brows are kind of prominent,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like not a
I
Korean
wish I had
thing.
more hair on my brows. I have to get mine tattooed because I don't have a lot of hair on my
Well, they
eyebrows.
look beautiful. But Korean beauty is very different in that it's all about this sense of like purity and just having a very like silky, glassy, clear, perfect skin. Like your skin can never be perfect and clear and milky and dewy enough. But I really don't see who has that except for your son, who we just happened to see before he came in here, and he's a 20 something, and he just by good genetics he happens to have that.
Yeah.
But I don't see a lot of 20-year-olds who naturally have that.
you know that? Have you seen that?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, because you get like it makes you have like the perfect jawline. So you hold it like that.
Oh, it makes you have the V jawline.
Yeah, this and then the jaw right here, this jawbone right here. So you're like,
okay.
That's so Asian. I'm sorry. Yeah. So my son, I don't know where he gets the dewiness because like I have dry skin. Angel has dry skin. My other son and my other daughter have dry skin. So like, my oldest son came out with this like flawless skin. In fact, my aunt calls him flawless. That's her nickname for him.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
With
an accent though, flawless. Oh, it's flawless. Everyone knows that. yeah, so he's always had that, and his siblings are like, "It's no fear. Why do you have like good skin, and I have eczema, or I have whatever." And so I don't know where he got that from. One of his grandparents, maybe, or
It's like
whatever.
you know how one of the kids takes after like
Yeah,
one of the aunts or
yeah,
like a
and he doesn't get
grandparent.
acne.
Oh
So
boy.
I never got acne. So I know he probably got that from me.
Uh-huh.
Like I never got acne.
Right. He's
Um,
just genetically blessed. It's a
yeah,
fluke.
exactly.
Yeah.
And he has the jawline, and it's really funny because he doesn't speak a lot. So he's not like he's not conceited or anything. He barely says words. You have to like you have to make him talk. However, he does get a lot of comments like that. So
Mm-hmm.
he's seeing now that, hey, maybe I can do something as an influencer or whatever. If
As a model, as a
not as a model so much,
six
but
foot two Filipino boy,
yeah,
that's
I
good
mean it's
looking
so
with perfect
funny.
skin. He's wasting that potential right now.
He's actually a Latin Asian.
Lation. I
That's
like
what they call
that.
it.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, they comment the most of it is his hair.
Oh
So
yes.
anytime he does like a TikTok or whatever, a
Right.
lot of comments say, "But the hair though, who's your name?
Yes.
Who's your
Uh-huh.
barber, whatever?" And I'm his barber since he was born. So it's not really that he has the best barber, but that he has good hair. So me and my husband, we actually do have both that thick hair, and my hair's curly, and Angel's is wavy. So yeah, he just got the best
He just
of
hit
that.
the genetic jackpot
He did.
and just got the best of all your combinations. So that's cool. One thing that I think Filipinos never struggle with, or Latin Americans, is the Korean ideal of having big, round, like doughy deer eyes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
big, full eyes, and that's because the Korean ideal is to have the double eyelids, and that's actually something that I was never born with. So I
Mm-hmm.
had the mono lid, and actually, the funny thing is, it's just a couple years ago, I just naturally developed it the way my eyes were shaped. I had a very faint crease. And as I just kind of lost baby fat and elasticity, it just
Mm-hmm.
kind of, showed up.
Yep.
But before then, I had a mom who was telling me at 13, you need to get your eyes done. You need to get your eyes done. And the funny
At
thing is,
13.
yeah, the funny
It's
thing
pretty
is,
funny.
here we are growing up
Yep.
as Americans, and still that was really important.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know there's a lot of girls and boys that I know of who have gotten the double eyelid surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you got bullied or anything when you were
Mm-hmm.
younger, but I do remember in our generation, X, is that there was a lot of like bullying about how we looked. But it was, I don't know, it wasn't. Interesting question. Ah! So nosy. I hate when Siri does that. Stop. Anyways, my watch just talked back at me. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like if you wore thick glasses, you were, they called you four eyes or whatever,
Uh-huh.
or if you had to wear braces, you were brace face or something like that. There was a lot of that going on in our generation. I know that's when our kids were little, they
Mm-hmm.
put that a stop to that, and there was like no bullying policy kind of thing.
Right.
But when we were younger, we had to deal with that. So
Mm-hmm.
we were talking to a friend yesterday who was talking about the fact that it's trauma based, like everything is trauma based.
Right.
I agree a little bit about some of it, but not. I think it's just cultural. And then your article will tell us really that
Yes.
article that you read. It's not trauma based. It's really
Well,
it's
it's become a cultural thing. So, for example, the article that I read and where we got these beauty ideals, and it's everywhere. If you look at Korean, you just Google it, you can see it. Um, it- it's become so important that looks are in the forefront in Korean culture. That if you don't look good, they basically you can't get ahead at work. You can't get prominent positions. They almost equate that with capability. It's become that important in the society,
yeah.
and I guess they call Korea the plastic surgery capital of the world. And so I mean, I'm sure it's pretty tough to grow up there and be forced into those kind of standards. So, I've heard all of these things growing up in my life, hey, why do you have so many freckles? Or why is your head so big? Or why your eyes are so small? You should get some surgery. The only genetic plus I had going for me is like I have,
Your
like
nose
a
is, yeah,
reasonably shaped nose,
yeah,
I guess is what other people would
yep.
say. And the rest I just kind of grew into. But I was a late bloomer. And so when you say bullying, oh yeah, I got bullied for all of it.
Yeah.
The thick glasses, looking like a shrubby boy, being a little round dumpling, so that happens,
Yes.
A lot of Filipino movie stars would come to Korea to get their plastic surgery because Korea was known to have refined the Asian look and how to do the Asian eyes. Because Koreans weren't trying to make their eyes look Western because they're already beautiful.
Yeah.
That beauty ideal came from within the culture where they saw, oh, men and women do have that fold and makes their eyes
Well,
look
the
a certain
Filipinos
way.
don't do the eyes, but they do the nose and they
Okay.
lighten the skin.
Oh my God, the skin lightening among all the
Yeah.
Asians. It's
Because
so
I mean,
crazy.
like, luckily the colonialism. The one thing good that came out of colonialism is they intermingled with our, you know, with our
Interbred.
genetics. Yeah. And so, like, when that's
Uh-huh.
maybe like we're really okay. So I was just looking at an article this morning actually that our ancestors have no Asian blood. We're all Austronesian.
Right.
So
It was later,
yeah,
during Spanish colonization, that I think the Chinese came,
yep.
and then
Isn't that weird though? Like
they started to say
they call
say
us Asians, but
homogeneous.
yet if you look at our heritage, there's no
Right.
Asian blood. That was weird. That was the first time I've ever
Mm.
heard that. So we're 100% Austronesian in
Yeah,
the heritage,
originally.
and those are the Igorots, like I was telling you about.
Okay.
And then when we got colonized and people started coming over to our country, then we got all like that. So that's why I think a lot of us have the big eyes. A lot of us, I don't know a lot of us that have like monolid, like we do have the
Mm.
lid, but it's our noses. It's like bigger and like flatter.
Oh.
And then,
well, that is an Asian thing.
yeah, it
you
is.
know.
Uh,
A
and
lot
then
of
we
Asians do
have
have
darker
that.
skin for the
Mhm.
most part.
Oh.
But because of these cultural things, even in
Right.
Korea, like you're saying,
Right.
that the Filipinos are the same way, where like they won't stay outside for too long, or else they'll get
Right.
dark, or they have an umbrella,
Uh-huh.
or they have a screen over their face, or whatever, so that they don't get super dark.
Oh yeah. Oh, the light skin, the dark skin thing is so crazy. I've heard this from my Chinese friends, from you. I've seen this and experienced this within the Korean culture, even the Korean Americans, where you'll have two sisters that are born, one very fair and one that's a little bit darker. And the whole hubbub about the kid was just born and you're already talking about skin lightening.
I know.
Come on, like.
And I was born. I'm a light skinned Filipino,
Uh-huh.
and just like maybe in the past 10 years or so, my skin has stayed a little bit more tanned than normal. And
Because
I think
we're Californian.
yeah, exactly. Like you can't get away from it unless you just stay a hermit in your house. But even like driving in your car, you're getting dark. Like I come home from driving my car, my arm is like
Right.
getting dark. So you're right. We're Californians.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if we lived in Minnesota or something,
Yeah.
we'd all be like light skinned.
Yeah. So like another thing that kind of confused me or caused me to just have a really negative idea about makeup and focusing on beauty was there's a lot of confusing beauty standards. So like we grew up in the United States, grew up in California. So we saw, you know, in real life on TV, all these really beautiful models and stars who had more of the Western aesthetic.
Mhm.
And so we were seeing that, we're experiencing that. I grew up in a very Latino community. And so, like, I remember the first stunning, most beautiful woman that I had ever seen was one of my elementary school teachers. And she was this beautiful Latino woman, and she had this dark black, like cascading thick hair. And she dressed like she was like a model.
Yeah.
And she wore these mules and she wore this perfume and she would walk around the class and we would smell the perfume and I just thought, oh my gosh, she's stunning. And she was like not the Asian women, not necessarily like the American women we were seeing on TV, like in Charlie's Angels
Mhm.
or Wonder Woman or Brooke Shields, or she was just beautiful, but she was from our community, our Latin
Yeah.
American community that I happened to be part of. And I just thought, wow, she's stunning,
That's
you
when we didn't
know?
have like Selma Hayek yet.
Right, exactly. But it's kind of confounding when you look so different from your own like ethnic background, like
Yeah.
your features or what you look like don't necessarily match up what they think is beautiful. And then who you see is really beautiful is from a completely different culture.
Right.
So it's a little bit
Right.
confusing, like what am I supposed to be looking like? Or
That's why it's
you
like
know.
what is beauty? Like it's true.
Uh-huh.
Like beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Mhm.
I mean, it sounds like so cliche, but like it's true because
It's so
what other
subjective.
people
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
so a good example like is like how people who are really fair skinned here in America want to be
Mhm.
tan, so they always go out and get a tan
Right, right.
because they think that's more beautiful, right?
Mhm.
Where in Asia, we're like, no, that's a no no, don't go
Yeah.
out, kind of thing. And so it's very interesting
Mhm.
in that way. And then you have people who don't like or are not attracted to people who look like them.
Yeah,
They would rather go
exactly.
with like something that to them is exotic because it doesn't look like they don't
Yeah.
look like them.
Something very different from what they look like, what they've seen, and they find it just intriguing and beautiful. The whole tan thing is something that's so funny because growing up in Southern California, just hanging out with your friends, you're going, and I grew up pretty close to the beach. So just being out and playing and going to the beach, hanging out with your friends, you're just getting tan. You're getting the California, suntan freckled look. And of course, I had the Asian mom at home that was like, "Oh my God, you're so tan. You're looking
That
horrible."
was like my mom. She was like, "Whoa, why are you so dark?" Like
Yeah.
I'm like, dude.
And do you know why that's a big deal for Filipinos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would say it looks like you've been working out in the fields all day. So it's basically like the cultural thing. Like if you're dark, that means you have a lower like economic status because you work in the fields.
Yeah,
You're
you're doing like farming work or you're like
yeah,
a
yeah, right,
rice
exactly.
farmer or something.
Yeah,
But the funny thing is, in Europe, that just means, oh, I'm like on my yacht,
yeah, yeah,
tanning,
exactly.
or
I'm taking vacations, and
I'm in the
that's
south
why.
of France
Yeah,
and I've come back with this like cool
that's like
tan.
here too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you like yesterday, you asked our friend, you're like, oh, you're looking like really like
How are you looking
pinkish or something
so,
like that. But
yeah,
you said something else, which is kind of funny. So our friend is Swedish, and she's like, "Hey, you're looking so pink, like a pig."
no, no, but I meant it. I meant this beautiful pink. Pigs are cute. This beautiful pink
It was funny though.
complexion that actually Koreans would really be like, oh, that's so beautiful. I mean, Koreans like
I
more
was like, "Let's
white,
pop you
but
on the spit and make you more brown, and then we can eat you after." Like,
but I was just admiring,
yeah,
his skin tone as a Swede. But then our other friend, who is American European, he was really tan. I was complimenting him as well, and that was like both sides of me,
yeah,
right? So I always grew up tan. I love my freckles. I didn't care about the whitening. I was like, whatever.
yeah. I had to tell Anita, like, "Did you know there's a filter so you could have freckles?" And like, some people even like put freckles with makeup on their face so they can have
Uh-huh.
freckles. So I was like, "Ugh, the grass is always greener."
Yeah.
Like,
I told my mom this because I told her, hey, we're getting ready to do this podcast, a video podcast, and it's about this subject. And I told her about the freckles, and she just burst out like, are these people crazy? What's wrong with them? Like this is not freckles. Like, why would you want to do that?
yeah, I
So
know, I know. I don't. I mean, I don't know because my mom was never like a looks kind of person, so she's
mhm.
never mentioned anything about like freckles or anything like that. So I don't know if now, if the Filipinos worry about that, but I don't think so. Only because we have darker skin in general.
Mhm.
I shouldn't say that because there are a lot of Filipinos that do have lighter skin as well.
It's
Yeah,
the
real life
gamut,
Koreans are not like super white either.
No, no, no. It's the gamut. You run the
Yeah, yeah,
gamut,
yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you know, some of us are dark naturally and tan. Some of us are very white. If you're
Mm-hmm.
from Korea, you're so glowing white,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
but that's something that they cultivate.
yeah, yeah.
So, I'm not rejecting the Asian beauty standard, and but I'm also
Well,
we're
then you're
also
we're. I think what
uh-huh.
you mean is like, and it comes back to the trauma thing.
Uh-huh.
Like if you have such high standards, this K beauty, let's call it, then you might be giving your kid, for example, a
Hmm.
complex or something
Right.
because you have this thing. I'm talking about Anita and her
Yeah.
mom. Like, it's like, you're
When
saying,
you've
"Oh,
been
you have to
told
do
to
that."
go under the knife since you were 13 because you got to fix your face, then yes, okay.
Well, what about the butt lift? The butt lifting kills me.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
I mean, we haven't even gotten to the body yet. We're
We
talking
haven't even
about
talked about the body. I mean,
the other day. My cousins came over, and my mom was like, "Oh, I haven't seen you guys in a long time. Oh, yeah, you look like you got a little heavier."
your mom just said that?
Yeah,
She said,
she
uh-huh.
said it in Tagalog,
Yeah.
in a different way,
Uh-huh.
but it was basically, "Oh, you gained weight." And
That's
immediately I was like, "Really?" Like I just called it out right there. Like,
did your cousin's face even change or
no, no,
she
because
wasn't
she's
phased, right?
closer to my generation. So
Okay.
she's like, "I know." She was like, "I know we were joking about that."
Yeah.
And we were like,
The
what is
aunties and the moms and the grandmas, no boundaries. Everything will come out of their
totally. And
mouth.
she was like, "No, I
Mhm.
know. We always say like, hey,
Mhm.
that's the Filipino hello. It's not like,
Right.
hey, how are you doing? It's like, hey, you gained weight."
Right. Yeah, that's
Or you
like
got bigger.
yeah, exactly. That's like when I would go to Korea and they would say, "Oh, you would be attractive if you were 20 pounds lighter." They just
You
I mean,
think?
they don't even say hello. That's the first thing. Or the
Yeah.
stranger will say that to you.
Also,
Yeah,
like they would say that to me after I just had my third kid or
oh yeah.
something. And
Yes.
I'm like, showing my baby. And I'm like, I just had a baby. Give me a break. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
so that's another thing. But now we're used to it. Like we just
I think that those comments make it difficult to like even depart the Asian beauty standard if you want
yeah.
living here because they are always reminding you you're not living up to the impossible beauty standards, even though you may have a reason, like I just had a child or I'm naturally gracefully getting
Yeah, and
older
they're like,
and
no,
it's
you're
just
letting
that's what
yourself
it
go.
is.
Like I think my dad used to even
Uh-huh.
say that to me, like, oh, you're gaining weight
Oh,
like that. I'm like, oh my gosh. We were like, remember the movie, the Joyride movie?
oh yeah,
That was
there's
funny because okay, wait, I don't want to give it away. You should watch it. But they talk about that too. And there's a one part in that movie that's funny. They're like, "Oh, that's why you look like that."
there's it
You have to watch it. That
there's
movie
always
is
references to
hilarious.
how you're looking. I think what saved us growing up, Generation X,
Mhm.
and also for me, the reason why I kind of said, well, I don't live up to your beauty standards, European beauty standards. I don't live up to the Korean beauty standards. I'm definitely not living up to the Latina beauty standards.
Yeah.
Well, then screw makeup, screw all of this. I don't care. And so part of that was a Gen X thing,
Yeah.
like screw conformity, screw
Oops.
authority. It's that whole life is a bitch, then you die. Like,
Yep.
okay, so what? F off. I'm gonna do my own thing. And so it just kind of saved me, from being able to push back against all the standards and not succumb to the pressure of getting plastic surgery,
Mhm.
or to look Asian or to look white or to look Latina or doing all those things. But now, I realize, after we're doing all this makeup and stuff, like, hey, makeup is not my enemy. It's something that can just be something that is there to kind of help you look more like yourself and not
Right.
like something else. Just emphasizing your own natural beauty, wherever that is. And so have a much healthier attitude about it. And I think it's also because we're growing up now, we're living now in a time where we have so much more different body shapes and acceptable beauty standards that we
Well,
see.
I think that another thing is that, well,
Mhm.
when it comes to like self-esteem and all this, is that I think we are also lucky that we live, and this is funny how I'm saying we're
Mhm.
lucky, but we live in California because we have more diversity here.
Mhm.
And so it's not as, even though our neighborhood now is not as diverse as where we grew up,
Right.
but California in general has a lot of diversity. And
Mhm.
so when you're walking around somewhere, you don't feel
Mhm.
like you don't look like anybody. I think maybe would we have been more self-conscious if we were in a state that didn't have a lot of Koreans or didn't have a lot of Filipinos at all. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think it's kind of a mixed thing. I think some of the Koreans that grew up in states where it was a little bit more homogeneous European faces, they just kind of adopted that and just said, "Hey, I don't look like that, but I'm gonna just kind of like accept that." Whereas we kind of got the moms, the aunties, the grandmas saying, "Why are you so dark? Why are you not getting the plastic surgery? Why is your body so muscular when we like only
Why
thin
is it so
bodies?" Yeah,
muscular? Hey,
you
that's supposed to
know,
be a good thing.
right. So like, why are your shoulders so broad? I have broad shoulders, which is not an attractive trait for a Korean, ideal Korean woman. You want to have like very narrow, slight shoulders. So all of these kind of reminders for me were very confusing. Um, when I could have just said, okay, well, guess what? I'm living in a society where maybe I don't look like my own people. And then my body type is a little bit more, or my face is a little bit more, has commonalities with other cultures. So, like, in that way, I think it just depends on the individual. But right now, we have so much exposure to everything. So I feel like there's a place for like our kids
Yeah.
where, you know, you have a beautiful big butt, that's acceptable. You have a big chest, which Asians generally have never had. There's a beautiful place for that.
Yeah.
There's if you have no butt, no breasts, and you're very athletic and very slight, there's a place for that. So I feel like it's a lot more open now. But I don't know.
Is that why they call it? Is that why we call this like impossible beauty standards?
Yes, it's impossible.
Unless you're getting surgery, then it's,
Yeah.
but it's still impossible because, like you said, not everybody thinks that's
Yes.
attractive.
And even with surgery, if you look at the K dramas or you look at, even, oh my gosh, even in, on TV and whatever's on, American TV,
Mhm.
you see that there's so much plastic surgery. So, like, there are impossible beauty standards everywhere. But I think you have to try to find a
And we're not,
balance between um, everything that's around you and whatever you are and what your natural beauty is.
and we're kind of like we're referring to both men and women, right?
Yeah,
Because, like, I
definitely.
mean, yeah, the whole surgery in the face, that's both sides. Like,
Hmm.
K-pop guys, K-pop women, men, Filipino actors, actresses, like
Hmm.
all that. They all get that done. It's not just one. It's not just women
In the
who
face, they
have to
get
deal
they
with it.
get pecs, calf implants, and this is American men
Calf implants.
too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not at
yeah.
the
Sure.
rate that I think Korean men and women are, but
Yeah,
I think it's become everywhere.
yeah. I mean, if you think about it, when in the 80s, um, just the styles and stuff like that were different too. Like,
Hmm.
the men, for example, like I think, like men, like they talk about K-pop stars right now, that the male K-pop stars like BTS and all those guys, like they wear makeup, but dude, that started way back, like in the 80s.
Yeah.
All the guys, the new wave guys, the Durans, Billy Idols, and all that, they all wore
Oh
makeup.
yeah, they were rocking the eyeliner pretty
Yeah, and look
hard,
at
and
the
then
Curve. I mean,
oh
like, come
yeah,
on, he was like all makeup, and
yeah.
all the even
Boy
the
George
rock
was
stars,
way
even
ahead
the
of his
heavy
time.
metalers, and all those guys,
Yeah, they
like
were.
Guns N' Roses, they wore
Hmm.
eyeliner, blush,
I
foundation.
think it was something that was like more liberating, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like freedom of expression.
Yep.
So like being able to grow up in that generation where you don't have to conform,
Yeah.
that there is a rebel kind of an attitude, a
Right.
rebelling attitude against the norm and the standard. That was something that I really praised. So
I know, but I think that's why, like, our kids or the new generation, I don't think. I wonder if they think we were weird or something,
they
or that
do.
we.
This is more of a fashion thing,
Yeah.
but sometimes, because we grew up in the 80s, I think that's why I really love the costume the Halloween costume
Yeah, we
makeup
were
we
very
did.
costumey back then.
The 80s was so costumey. So when I wear something that kind of reminiscent of the 80s,
We dressed like our favorite pop artists.
yeah.
Like I used to
Uh-huh.
dress like I loved the band Madness.
Hmm.
So I used to wear like long trench coats with like pins and
That's
stuff on the side. I
awesome,
wanted to
right?
look like them, you know. And then even like um girls like dressing up like Madonna because
Right.
Madonna was a thing.
Yeah, that
Cindy
was
Lauper,
trending,
let's do all the
right?
colors.
Exactly.
Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
so costumey. It was
Yeah,
like
the whole flash dance,
yeah,
with
I
the
mean
Legos, all that, right?
that's really more idolizing than it is
Yes.
now. Like remember how it's funny every time you watch like an 80s movie, you always see some guy dressed up in like a Michael Jackson like Thriller jacket or something
Yes,
like that or a
right.
Beat It
Uh-huh.
jacket because we just whoever we liked, we dressed exactly like them.
But that's what I love about it. It's so costumey. So sometimes I will err on the between my Korean fashion aesthetic, which we have a tendency to really love fashion, to be a little bit more dressed up, a little extra,
Yeah.
and then the 80s, kind of sensibility. Like my son will say, "What are you wearing?" And he's like, "You guys growing up in the 80s, you guys needed more conformity. You think you can just wear anything you want." I was like, "Yeah,
But
right
we
on. That's it."
could. That's what it's about, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing. Like, and when I was young, I used to dress like Punky Brewster because I loved Punky
Oh
Brewster.
yeah.
So I always used to come to school with like non-matching socks and like
Hmm.
colorful, like different colors on that didn't
Yeah.
match and stuff like that when I was younger.
Uh-huh.
And then when I got to high school, like I said, then we started dressing like our favorite,
Hmm.
musical artists or whatever. So, that's not a thing now. I don't think. Well, maybe because a lot of the like the artists, they don't. No, that's not true. They're costuming on stage,
Hmm.
but their fans don't copy that look because it's too weird for them. Unlike it wasn't weird for us. We
Are
did
you
it.
talking about like a Lady Gaga type
Yeah,
weird
Lady
or
Gaga, or like even like okay, let's like
she's kind of
Blackpink for
older.
example, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Blackpink, they're dressed very like provocative, but
Provocatively,
like in
right.
an innocent clothing, but they look provocative kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't see a lot of girls do that.
It's not as costumey now, I feel like, as it
Yeah,
was in the 80s for sure.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. So I mean, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it kind of sets us apart,
Whatever. Yeah,
right? Because
exactly.
there's no other generation that really did that. Like even in the
Hmm.
'70s, like they had a style, but they didn't copy
Right.
their favorite artists. Like they didn't all dress up like Captain and Tennille or whatever.
Unless you're shopping at Free People and you're doing that 70s boho thing, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't specific to like a music video, which
No,
we
no,
didn't
it
care. We
wasn't,
did
right?
it, and we're like, why did we do that? That's so weird. I'm looking back at it right now. I'm like, I actually think that is kind of weird if I did that. If I
Hmm.
dressed like somebody on TV and I wore their clothes, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? That would be funny. But yeah. So I mean, I don't know if that has anything to do with beauty standards, but it kind of like it kind of s- uh, um,
It gives you a sense of,
it proves the point about like self-expression.
yeah,
Like it doesn't matter
self-expression in the
how you're
80s.
supposed to
And
look. Like
yeah, so having that as in your psyche, and thinking like it's fine. I
yeah,
don't have to look a certain way. Um, kind of it brought it all back for me, recently, and made me be able to really appreciate and enjoy not only costume makeup, but then take it over to regular makeup and take that sting and the trauma out of it that I used to associate with
yeah,
you know, makeup and trying to make yourself look like a certain impossible standard,
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, with the body thing, it's like right now I'm speaking for myself. Is like I'm going through that time in my life where it's almost impossible for me to lose weight. Like everything that I used to do, even just 10 years ago,
mhm,
like doesn't work anymore.
mhm,
So I have a choice. I either like keep having like stressing out on finding new ways to do it to
mhm.
lose weight, or let's live our lives
Yeah.
and this too shall pass kind of thing. Cause I'm
Right.
gonna trust your mom. Anita's mom always says, don't worry, when menopause is over, you're gonna
You
get your
just
life
lose all that
back.
weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, should I wait and just make sure that I'm just staying healthy? And who cares, like,
Uh-huh.
if I'm getting a little bit bigger, like on the
Right.
weight size, and then just
Uh-huh.
wait because I'm fine. I mean, I'm not trying to impress anybody or be skinny or
Yeah.
whatever. I kind of rely, we talked about this last night,
Right.
like rely on like, hey, I have a good personality and like,
Mhm.
have a lot of friends and stuff like that. Like who, and they're not judging me.
Right.
And I think that's what we really need to realize. Like, who is the harder judge? Is it, are we just judging ourselves and,
Mhm.
or are we letting other people affect us, you know what I mean? Like other people's judgment affect us. But you know how
Mhm.
we always say like other people's opinions are none of your are none of your business. So that's kind of like that's what we have to go forward, living that kind of life. Like, look, I'm okay with myself. My family loves me. I have
Mhm.
great friends that love me, whatever. Who the hell cares?
Right.
Even you guys watching out there. I mean, you guys might think like, oh, or I'm not gonna say you guys. There are always haters that watch these things and they're like, "Oh my gosh, why are these girls on video?" Like blah blah whatever. And that's not the point of anything. Like
Mhm.
of your life is not to care about what other people um think about you looks wise, right? It's just that you just got to be a good person and
Mhm.
kind of be have gratitude and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And
There's, I
yeah.
think, a healthy dose of self acceptance with also striving to maintain, you know, your health and your confidence and your self respect.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
but it needs to be based upon you and
Yep.
not looking at these crazy fads or unattainable things that can actually make you crazy. It's like in that article that we were reading today about the Korean Impossible Beauty Standards.
We'll put the
Talks,
link in the description, by the
oh,
ways.
we
Yeah,
definitely
you
will.
got to read that.
It talks about how it leads to, obviously body dysmorphia, depression, um, just mental illness,
Hmm.
and how much uh, that kind of being in that track where you're obsessed about these impossible beauty standards, it just can really diminish the quality of life and even take a very dark turn. And so I just thought, wow, like self acceptance and just being grounded and whatever the most recent thing is, you just have to say, I choose to love myself. I choose to like who I am. And if I can, uh,
Especially you younger folks that grew up in the Instagram generation. Like,
mhm,
I can't imagine growing up in that. Like, if we were in the 80s and we were growing up with like social media, with people
not
seeing,
knowing what's real and not,
dude,
and we had,
we
okay.
would be, we're already jacked up. Okay. Generation X is already like, could you imagine if we were like if we had social media? It
Yeah.
would be,
We had
I
it.
don't even know.
Yeah, because you don't
It's
know
like
what's
just,
filtered, what's real, what's not real, and so
yeah.
that just really does a job on you. We
Yep.
had it
Yep.
a little bit with magazines, but that's not as accessible as
Yeah, that was a whole
social
different
media
problem.
now.
That
Yeah,
was more like
right,
trying to live up to the Victoria's Secrets look, you know what I
right.
mean?
That's an impossible standard
Right.
too,
And
right?
in our head, at least we were thinking like, oh, they're models, right?
Yeah, that's their job.
Right. But now it's like everybody on freaking Instagram looks good because there's
Right,
filters and blah blah blah. Yeah.
right,
So now you feel like inferior
hmm
because like I don't look like anybody, any of those
right.
people,
Like, what do real people look like?
Right.
You get lost in that,
Right.
and so
It's funny. So there's this one app someone just invited me to. It's called Laps. I don't know. I'll probably invite you to it because like I
mhm.
can't use it unless I invite 5 people. Anyways, hey, we're not being sponsored or anything. I just got the invite today, but I was reading like what the theory, what it is about,
Mhm.
and it's basically like it's like Snapchat. So you snap pics, but they're all gonna look like Polaroid pics.
Okay.
And you can't. There's no filters.
Mm.
You can't even review it right after you take it.
Oh, so it's like you don't see it, you
Yeah,
take it, and
you
then you
you
see it
have
later.
to. That's
You have to
that's
publish it
that's
in
how
order
you
to see
look.
it.
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
you can deny it after it
Right.
develops
Yeah.
because
Uh-huh.
supposedly it's getting developed. So it's like a game too. It's kind of supposed to be fun, I guess.
Mhm.
But like 1 to 3 hours later, you'll
Uh-huh.
see it, and you could swipe like I hate that, and it won't be posted.
Okay.
But like you can't. make it better than it is.
I see. So
Yeah.
you're looking at real images of people.
Yes.
Right.
Up to the moment. So like it's
Right.
like I guess you get a notification that says, "Oh, time to snap a pic."
Mhm.
So no matter what you're doing, you could be in the middle of gardening or whatever, you snap a pic and you can't filter it or anything. So basically, I mean, it's an effort, I guess.
Oh my gosh, sounds time consuming.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's an effort to kind of like, let's go back to reality. And this is what people are really doing.
Right.
And they're not really like curating all their photos so that they look
Mhm.
perfect and filtered and stuff like that. I'm guilty. I do that sometimes. And it's better because it's like, oh, you're in the moment. Like you could be
Mhm.
all sweaty, like
Yeah.
cooking breakfast or whatever, and you got to snap this pic.
Yeah.
So I think maybe I'll try it
Uh-huh.
to see if like it gets you like it keeps you grounded sort of
Yeah. Boy, I'm
looks
getting calls from
wise.
family saying we
You
can
look toe up. You're looking toe up.
Yeah, like what? I can see all of your flaws and your freckles and
Yeah, it's
everything.
like, well,
Yeah.
this is life. This is how it is. So
Yeah.
I guess for that app, you have to invite 5 people or else you can't use it.
Mhm.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so I asked my son. I was like, "Did you know what this is?" And he goes, "Yeah, I tried it, but I think they use this other one that's very similar.
Uh-huh.
You have to take pictures."
Well, there's so many options out there.
There are
Yeah.
there are. This was great. First time out on video.
But it was a nice introduction.
Yes.
You guys got to know a little bit of us, and hopefully you'll tune in next time to see what our next topic is. If you're not following us on Instagram or Facebook,
or actually our actual podcasts on the podcast platforms like
Yeah.
Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Definitely give us a follow so you don't miss our next episode. Subscribe so that every episode that we drop, you won't miss that because we have some cool things that we are now able to show you, which is kind of
Yeah.
cool.
And if you want to ever see what we're doing in real life, follow us on Instagram.
And we'll put all the links in the description and you can definitely connect with us in all these different ways. Other than that, we are going to sign off. I'm Eileen.
I'm Anita,
And we are
Generation X.